Marcella Chidester spent her morning drinking bottle after bottle of wine. By afternoon, she was behind the wheel of her SUV, flooring the accelerator straight into a children's birthday party. 2 kids died in the wreckage. Alana was 8. Zane was 5. The parents at Swan Boat Club had trusted this woman for 40 years. She'd been their commodore, their neighbor, the friendly retiree who held her wedding at their venue. So when her vehicle came crashing through the Pavilion wall at 44 miles per hour, crushing children under its wheels, nobody could comprehend it. Her blood alcohol was more than double the legal limit, but when police found her sitting calmly in a chair surrounded by chaos, she had the audacity to claim she couldn't remember a thing. Before we get too deep, hit the like button, share your take in the comments, and tap subscribe with the bell so you never miss the next episode of Deranged Women. Picture a warm, spring afternoon in Newport, Michigan. The kind of day perfect for a child's birthday party. The Swan Boat Club sat peacefully on the shores of Lake Erie, a place that prided itself on being the friendliest club on the water.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time for another $300 drawing here at Swan Boat Club. It is.
For decades, it had been the heart of this small community. Inside the pavilion, Kristen Sigler had transformed the space into every 3-year-old's dream. Circus decorations hung from the ceiling. A bouncy house waited in the yard. The smell of hot dogs filled the air, and children's faces were painted with colorful designs. More than 80 people had gathered to celebrate, their arms full of wrapped presents and birthday cards. Just before 3 o'clock, voices joined together singing "Happy Birthday." The birthday boy blew out his candles, and everyone reached for their cupcakes. It was one of those perfect moments parents hope to capture forever. 1 minute later, everything changed. An SUV came barreling through the side of the building, not slowing down, not stopping, just pure acceleration as it plowed through the wall, through the party, through people. Bodies flew, children screamed. The vehicle only stopped when it crashed into the far wall, 25 feet inside the building. From the driver's seat emerged Marcella Chidester, 66 years old, a longtime member of the boat club, a woman these families knew. She looked confused, maybe dazed, as she stepped out into the devastation she'd created. What followed was pure chaos. Parents scrambled through debris searching for their children. Some victims were carried outside, others couldn't be moved. And there were those still trapped under the SUV, a group of adults working desperately to lift the vehicle off them. Emergency calls flooded in. First responders arrived to a scene they'd never forget. A young boy had been carried from the crash site, barely breathing. More children were pulled from beneath the vehicle. Officers found Marcella sitting in a chair in the middle of it all, watching the horror unfold around her. When police approached, she appeared uninjured, just confused, and she had a story ready. She told them about her seizures, how they caused memory loss. That must have been what happened, she insisted. She just couldn't remember.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you think there's a reason you don't remember? Did something happen, or?
You know what? I have these seizures, and
Okay.
The officer asked her to walk through her day. She claimed she'd driven from her home down the street, pulled into the parking lot, and then nothing. A complete blank.
Going around here?
No, not really. I pulled into the parking lot, and I thought I was driving up to the boat club, and evidently I was driving right into the pavilion.
Which direction did you drive from?
I live right down the street.
Okay, so you were coming from that way?
Yes.
This way?
As Marcella spun her tale of medical mishaps, paramedics worked frantically around her. 15 people had suffered serious injuries. Diane Medina, a boat club member attending with her 3 granddaughters, would need multiple surgeries. A 14-year-old boy was fighting for his life. Leah Stith, just 18, and a cousin of the birthday boy, faced months of recovery. 12-year-old Jaden would spend weeks in the hospital. His mother, Mariah Dodds, woke up in the ICU to her sister sitting at her bedside. The last thing Mariah remembered was being at her godson's birthday party, giving her children cake pops. She had no memory of the crash itself. Jaden had survived, airlifted to the hospital in critical condition, but his younger siblings, 8-year-old Alana and 5-year-old Zane, were gone. The woman who had just killed 2 children and maimed over a dozen others wasn't some stranger passing through town. Marcella Chidester had lived in Newport for nearly 4 decades, her home just a short drive down the gravel road from the boat club. She and her husband Hugo had bought that house in the 80s and lived there quietly. Just the 2 of them. No children. Her connection to the Swan Boat Club ran deep. She'd served as Commodore, essentially the principal officer who shaped the club's direction and activities. The venue held her most precious memories. She and Hugo had even celebrated their wedding there. In her younger years, Marcella had served in the Army. After discharge, she'd worked at the nearby Fermi nuclear plant as a strategic buyer for DTE Energy Management. She'd retired 9 years before the crash, settling into what seemed like a peaceful retirement with Hugo. But retirement hadn't been entirely peaceful. Marcella suffered from seizures that caused temporary paralysis in her legs. She took prescription medications for various age-related conditions. Despite these health issues, she maintained a valid driver's license. In all her decades of driving, she'd never received so much as a parking ticket. At least, not until the afternoon she drove through a building full of children. At the hospital, Marcella emerged in a wheelchair, one arm in a cast. Nobody had told her the full extent of what happened at the boat club. She seemed genuinely unaware of the catastrophe she'd caused. When investigators pressed her to account for her day, she recalled having lunch with friends at a local tavern called Verna's. That lunch had ended just after noon. The crash happened at 3. What had she done for those missing hours? Marcella insisted she'd gone straight from lunch to the boat club for the party, but investigators knew that wasn't true.
Right. When you're done at Verna's, where did you go to?
Went to the boat club.
Straight to the boat club.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
They were having a birthday party.
so you woke up in the police car.
Yeah.
Okay, and then basically we didn't know the events after that.
No, I don't recall anything prior to that at all.
Okay, so that's why I'm trying to get a full account of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So from 12:10, we didn't go directly to the boat club. We went home. Did we go to the store? Did we go to a friend's house? What did we do during that time?
I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I know that the party started at 3 o'clock, the birthday party. So I was there a little bit before that.
They'd already started pulling surveillance footage from the club and surrounding areas. The cameras would tell a very different story than the one Marcella was spinning. A neighbor's doorbell camera had captured her leaving her house just before 3. She stumbled slightly on her way out, taking each porch step with extreme caution. About 2 minutes before she would kill 2 children, another camera showed her reversing from her driveway. She took a wide turn around her detached garage and then slammed into her neighbor's parked car. The impact was hard enough to push the vehicle backward into a fence. Did she stop? Did she check the damage? Did she realize something was wrong? Number Marcella Chidester kept driving. Data pulled from her SUV's computer revealed the truth about those final seconds. 5 seconds before impact with the boat club, she was accelerating. When she hit the building, she was going over 44 miles per hour. Her foot was pressing the accelerator 96% of the way to the floor. This wasn't a gentle roll forward during a medical episode. This was full acceleration into a building she knew was hosting a children's party. Still, Marcella stuck to her story. She told investigators she'd parked normally, walked into the party, dropped a birthday card in the collection box, and sat at the bar until the party started. The problem? Security footage showed her car never stopped. She came speeding down the road and drove straight through the wall. When confronted with this evidence, Marcella's response never changed. She simply didn't remember. Investigators grew frustrated. Was she filling memory gaps with false recollections, or was she deliberately lying? Finally, they decided to tell her exactly what she'd done. The officer's words were blunt. She was probably the most hated person in the United States right now. She'd driven into a children's birthday party and killed 2 kids. Many more were fighting for their lives in the hospital. The officer stressed that the only way to change the narrative was to tell the truth. Marcella's response? She didn't remember. She would think she'd remember something like that, she said, but she just didn't.
You drove your car into a kid's birthday party and killed 2 kids.
Oh, no.
And many more are at the hospital in critical condition right now.
Oh, no.
Adults as well.
I'm looking for the truth, Marcella. The truth needs to come out because you are the most hated person in the whole United States right now. I guarantee this is national news. You are the most... So you need to change that narrative right here. You need to change it. There's only one way you can change it, and that's by telling the truth. I've been doing this for a long time. I've sat across the table from killers before, like really, really bad killers. You're not that person.
And I don't remember. Honestly, I do not remember. I would think I would remember something like that.
Well, you're not being truthful about how much you drank. You're not.
Then came the question of alcohol. Initially, Marcella admitted to having just 1 glass of wine with lunch. The receipt from Verna's confirmed she'd ordered a single glass alongside her bowl of chili. She even explained that alcohol could trigger her seizures, which is why she'd switched mostly to alcohol-free wine. But at the scene, she'd told a different story. When officers asked if she'd been drinking, she admitted she had. When asked to rate her intoxication on a scale of 0 to 10, she'd said 7. When asked if she was okay to drive, she'd said no. She wouldn't let herself drive. An hour after the crash, they took her blood. An officer drove the sample directly to the Michigan State Crime Lab. The results came back at 0.18, more than double the legal limit. To reach that level an hour after the crash, having only 1 glass of wine was impossible. She would have needed closer to 10 glasses. The test also showed gabapentin in her system, a seizure and pain medication that becomes even more dangerous when mixed with alcohol. The combination could severely impair judgment and motor control. But Marcella's defense team had an answer for everything. They claimed the blood test was wrong, mistakes in the blood draw, improper transport, errors in testing. This was all a tragic accident caused by a seizure, they insisted. To the horror of the families still planning funerals for their children, Marcella was released on bond to await trial. While Marcella settled back into her home wearing an ankle monitor, investigators were building their case piece by piece. They weren't buying her seizure story, not when surveillance footage painted such a damning picture. Police searched the Chidester house and made a discovery that would blow her 1 glass of wine claim wide open. The garbage bin told its own story. Empty wine bottles, lots of them. And here's the thing about liars. They forget that trash cans have memories too. A store clerk came forward with receipts that made everything crystal clear. That morning, just 1 minute after the liquor store opened its doors at 9, Marcella had walked in and purchased 5 bottles of wine, 1 full-sized bottle of red. The Chidesters had security cameras in their kitchen. Investigators watched as Marcella's morning unfolded in real time. 9:24 a.m. She's carrying one of those small wine bottles. 10:30. An empty bottle appears in her hand. 10:45. Another small bottle visible. The woman had started drinking before most people finish their morning coffee. After her lunch at Verna's, where yes, she had another glass, the kitchen camera caught her again. 2:10 that afternoon. She's wandering through with a large glass of red wine. 2:30. Back again to refill that same glass. The bottle, probably the one she'd bought that morning, sits right there on the counter. That final refill happened 31 minutes before she got behind the wheel. 31 minutes before she'd claim a seizure made her forget everything. Think about it. She backs out of her driveway and crashes into her neighbor's truck. Any normal person stops, checks the damage, maybe panics a little, but Marcella? She kept going, accelerated even faster, aimed that SUV at a building she'd been to hundreds of times and pushed the pedal to the floor. Investigators laid out the timeline for her again and again. No mysterious blackout. No medical emergency. Just a drunk woman making one terrible decision after another. They even showed her the video evidence, hoping something might crack her story. Her response never wavered. She didn't remember any of it. The families, the trust of a community that had welcomed her for 40 years. When the dust settled, 8-year-old Alana Phillips was dead. Her 5-year-old brother Zane was dead. Their mother Mariah was unconscious and badly injured. Over a dozen others lay bleeding among overturned tables and scattered birthday decorations. And Marcella? She climbed out of her SUV and sat down in a chair. Witnesses say she just watched as people frantically tried to save the children she'd just mowed down. Like she was watching television. Like none of it was real. Prosecutors charged Marcella with second-degree murder for killing Alana and Zane Phillips. They added multiple counts of operating while intoxicated, causing death and serious injury. Her defense team immediately went on the offensive, claiming the blood test was bogus and their client had suffered a seizure. Here's where things get interesting. Marcella's defense attorney, Bill Colvos, decided to wage this battle in the media. He went on news shows insisting everyone should wait for the truth to come out. He claimed Marcella's doctor had cleared her to drive despite her seizures. He suggested the blood sample was contaminated. He painted his client as a victim of circumstances beyond her control. The community was furious. This woman had been drinking all day, plowed through a building full of children, killed 2 kids, and now her lawyer was on TV asking for sympathy? While families were planning funerals, things got even messier when Marcella's doctor, the one who supposedly cleared her to drive, got arrested himself. Dr. Garg faced 35 felony charges for running what prosecutors called a criminal enterprise. He'd been prescribing heavy painkillers to patients who didn't need them. Suddenly, Marcella's defense had a new angle: blame the corrupt doctor. The trial began 10 months after the crash. Prosecutor George Johnson laid out the case simply. This wasn't a typical drunk driving accident. Marcella didn't drift across a center line or misjudge a red light. She drove her car through the wall of a building at nearly 45 miles per hour, into a room she knew was full of children. The defense brought in a forensic toxicologist who claimed the blood test showed signs of fermentation. According to this expert, Marcella's sample contained acetone, suggesting improper storage that could inflate the alcohol reading. The 0.18 result couldn't be trusted, he insisted. Prosecutors countered with their own lab experts. Samantha Beecham, who supervised the toxicology lab, testified she'd checked the sample herself. No irregularities, no contamination. The test was accurate. But here's what really sank Marcella's defense. They had zero evidence of an actual seizure, no medical records from that day, no witnesses to any kind of medical episode, nothing except her word, which meant less and less as more evidence piled up. Remember that claim about having just 1 glass of wine? The kitchen surveillance footage destroyed it. The empty bottles in her trash destroyed it. The liquor store receipts destroyed it. Her own words to police at the scene, rating herself a 7 out of 10 on the drunk scale, destroyed it. During the trial, something unexpected happened. When defense attorney Colvos stood to cross-examine Mariah Dodds, the mother who'd lost both Alana and Zane, he broke down crying. He talked about losing his own son. He offered condolences. He said he had no questions for her because she'd been through enough. It was a moment of humanity in a case that had precious little of it, but it didn't change the facts. The jury needed less than 2 hours to decide. Guilty on all counts, murder in the second degree for both children, operating while intoxicated causing death, operating while intoxicated causing serious injury, everything. Between the verdict and sentencing, Marcella made one more bizarre move. She fired her attorney. Colvos showed up at the jail to discuss the appeal and learned he'd been dismissed. Her new lawyer made it clear at sentencing that he found his predecessor's media tactics disgusting. Going on TV while families were grieving, asking for public sympathy while children were being buried. He wanted nothing to do with that approach. At sentencing, Brian Phillips spoke about his children, their smiles, their heartbeats when they hugged him during storms, the silly voices they'd make. Marcella offered the same empty apologies and claimed she still couldn't remember. Judge White saw through it. She'd refused alcohol treatment. She still insisted it was just 1 glass of wine despite all the evidence. 25 to 50 years. At 67, she'll die in prison. Her attorney, the first one she'd fired, still insists the conviction will get overturned on appeal. He believes she'll get a new trial. The families of Alana and Zane Phillips pray he's wrong. You know what haunts me about this case? It's the moment after she hit that neighbor's truck. Right there, in that split second, Marcella Chidester had a choice. She knew something was wrong. She had to. You don't slam into a parked car and not realize you're impaired. But instead of stopping, instead of recognizing the danger she posed, she kept going. Accelerated even. That decision, that conscious decision, cost 2 children their lives and destroyed dozens of others. The Swan Boat Club has tried to heal. They've held fundraisers for the families. They've strengthened their community bonds. But some things can't be fixed with charity drives and memorial services. Mariah Dodds will never again make cake pops for all 3 of her children. Brian Phillips visits 2 small graves when he should be attending school plays. This wasn't some unavoidable tragedy. This wasn't fate or bad luck or a medical emergency. This was a woman who spent her morning drinking, got behind the wheel anyway, hit another vehicle, and still chose to keep driving. Remember, danger can wear a friendly face. Stay aware, look out for others, and reach out if you need help. See you in the next case on Deranged Women. Thanks for watching.